Happy New Year. What's going on, Brother Eric? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Oh, here we go. Happy
There we
New
go.
Year.
There we go. How are
listen,
you?
man, we made it through something, didn't we? 2020
Man,
was real.
Happy New Year, everybody. Everybody that's out there, we're so happy to be back. It's 2021. Roz McCarthy here with my co-host Eric Range, and we miss you guys. Canna Talk with Roz has been off since about December. Man, and we missed you. So how's things with you and the family, Eric?
Everything is great, man. We closed out the new year. Last year strong, and I think we really took some time as a family to kind of recalibrate and to, get ourselves together, both mentally and physically, and just really prepare on like closing the chapter of 2020 and coming into 2021 with new mindset, new energy, just new excitement. And so, I feel like we got the year off started really well, and just excited, man. Excited to be back on Canna Talk. We've been going too long, man.
Yes. We miss you, family. Everybody listen. So those that, you're normally on here at 1 o'clock, we are going to be back. We have a lineup coming into 2021 that we're going to be more intentional. We're going to have so many good content that's going to be related to business, to social justice, to new opportunities. And we're going to also be highlighting some people that are doing fantastic things in the industry. So this is what our talk today. We have a fantastic guest for today that comes from the laboratory background in the cannabis industry. I was super excited to connect with this organization at the, I guess it was the end of 2020. We talked about doing work together, what have you. But more importantly, I was just interested in having them come on and talk more about their organization, what the role of the laboratory, how it's important. You guys need to know if you are partaking, adult or medical, doesn't matter. You want to make sure that your medicine or whatever you intake is free of pesticides, mold, and things of that nature. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Ms. Carissa Miller and Mr. Tim Schnupp. Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
How's it going? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So you know what? It's all about you guys today. And it's all about laboratory and cannabis testing and what it means and where the future is going with it. So let's start with Tim. Introduce yourself, Tim. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how long have you been with US Cannalytics?
Yeah, thanks. So number one, thanks for having us. Happy to be the first show of the new year. My name's Tim Schnupp. I am the lab director and partner at US Cannalytics. So we have a lab in Pennsylvania, and we're building a lab in Florida, and we have a sister lab in Maryland. So I kind of oversee the laboratories from a lab director perspective. And my background's actually in pharmacy. So I went to pharmacy school in 2013. Doesn't seem that long ago, but it's, 7, 8 years ago now.
Yes, you are a baby. I say that affectionately, but no, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, went to pharmacy school in 2013. I never thought I'd be here, but every day, I'm grateful and happy to be here. This is an awesome industry to be in. It's certainly challenging, but it's extremely rewarding as well.
That's awesome. And Carissa, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how'd you get connected with US Cannalytics?
Sure. So my name is Carissa Miller. My background was in kind of patient advocacy, patient services. I did some pharmaceutical compliance and regulatory for a while. And I came to the sister Maryland lab as like an administrator, and that position kind of grew. So as Tim mentioned, there's a Florida lab that's currently pre-operational. So now I'm overseeing Florida operations, and hopefully we'll have a New Jersey operation online shortly, right, Tim?
Yeah, New Jersey's on deck here.
All right. Well,
so it's incredibly exciting. Lots of big things happening.
It is incredibly exciting. So, guys, let me talk about what we're going to do today. Eric is going to be here. Eric is going to drive our conversation today. For those people that normally see me, I got to jet out and work on something that's really pressing from a time perspective. But I want to make sure that I came on initially because it's so important to talk about the laboratory and the role of the laboratory and what you guys do and how you do it. And I don't know, Tim or Carissa, If you can just for our followers and our viewers out there, can you just give them an overview about what are the things that you do with your company, US Canalytics? What's your role in the cannabis industry?
Sure. So, our role as an independent testing lab is to make sure that products meet state mandated requirements before they reach the dispensary shelves to be, sold to consumers. So we're essentially looking at two components, making sure that products are labeled accurately from a potency perspective. So cannabinoids and terpenes, and then also from a safety perspective, you want to make sure that the product's not contaminated with anything that could be potentially harmful to patients, especially, immunocompromised ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And I work with the state Florida Department of Agriculture here. I sit on the Industrial Hemp Advisory Committee, and in particular, I chair the subcommittee for consumer education. And I think when I think about labs, I think about protecting the consumer. And that's really what it boils down to. As states bring on these programs, they need to have infrastructure in place that, obviously allows for companies to operate and so on, but do so in a way that protects consumers. And I think the cannabis industry in particular, we have this kind of interesting play. We certainly fall into a maybe a new or changing medical paradigm where it's all about natural remedies, natural plants, using alternatives to your traditional pharmaceuticals and so on. And a lot of it has to do with, the lack of understanding how pharmaceuticals work in our body, but how cannabis, I think the conversation is different. We talk a lot more, we understand a lot more how that happens. So, I want to ask that question in regards to one, from a lab standpoint, what do you guys think are the opportunities for engagement with the public, and in keeping in mind or couching it in this idea of a change or a new medical paradigm where we're much more transparent about the things that we're using to treat our health?
I think the first thing is with testing comes more legitimacy, and not that medical marijuana markets, medical cannabis markets weren't legitimate before, but I think with more regulation comes more social acceptability, and people are able to feel more comfortable saying like, oh, I'm using, medical cannabis to treat my autoimmune disorder, or I'm using it to treat my chronic pain that, maybe traditional medicine hasn't helped. And so I think that's kind of been my favorite part of working in the industry, is just educating patients on making, good decisions that are going to help their symptoms, helping medical practitioners recognize that maybe, this can be used as an alternative to traditional pharmaceuticals in addition with that there's so many options and so many, like I said, legitimate options. And the more we're able to research and test, the more we can utilize this tool that we've always had.
Absolutely. And, when it comes to, well, first, let me back up, because we, on Canna Talk, and we love our audience. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in right now. Make sure you ping some other people into the room. We're having a very important conversation about the role of labs in the cannabis industry and what they serve. And so, before we go any further, you mentioned, Tim, a couple of terms earlier that obviously I think when you say them, they just kind of roll over my head because we know them. We use them frequently in the industry, but we get people on here who, sometimes are not so familiar with things. So explain what terpenes are. Explain what, some of those terminologies that you use, cannabinoids. Explain, real briefly what, some of those are, those definitions.
Yeah, sure. So, these are the components that make up the cannabis plant. And to us as scientists, this is really the exciting part of the science, right? This is cannabis. If you ask any chemist, is one of the most complex matrices. It has fats, lipids, waxes, cannabinoids, terpenes, water. It's so diverse in its components. So two of the main components that we look at are cannabinoids and terpenes, and both I would classify as potentially active ingredients, And as we learn more and do more research and hear more feedback from patients, we'll get a better understanding of how those interact with each other and with the body. But cannabinoids are generally your THC, your CBG, your CBD. Those are the molecules that act on the cannabinoid receptors, your CB1 and your CB2 receptors. And then terpenes are really the components that contribute to the smell and the flavor of not only cannabis but anything. In pine trees, they're naturally occurring substances that contribute to the smell and flavor. So I think as we learn more about the cannabinoids, we're also learning more about how the terpenes interact not only with the body themselves directly, but also how they have synergistic effects with cannabinoids.
With the other compounds in the plant. Absolutely. The other side of it, so that we just talked a little bit about, how we're protecting consumers, educating consumers, and so on. The other side is, you guys as a lab, you provide a service to businesses, cannabis businesses in this space, and you provide, well, can you talk about what you feel are the advantages? Obviously from a regulatory standpoint, they're required to, hire companies like yours. But what are the advantages to a business? And I'm thinking of those individuals who come to us who are, they're making edibles, out of their home, or maybe they've elevated to doing it out of a commercial kitchen, or something to that standpoint. What are the advantages offered to a business by working with a lab like yourself?
So I think one of the big advantages is validating what you're doing, so you can take a starting material and process it to a finished product, but you don't really know what exactly is in that finished product unless you get it tested. I mean, you have a good idea based on, calculations and your process, but you don't know until you test it. So I think one of the big things and services that we provide is a validation of what you're doing. A lot of our guys are still experimenting with, nutrient-specific programs or lighting specific programs or drying and curing processes, and they don't know what effect their changes have until they get it tested. So that's one of the most exciting things I think that we do for clients is really provide that independent, objective feedback of how their changes affect the end product.
Mm. So, the nerd in me, when I hear you say that, I'm hearing, little things there. So, a lot of times we talk about in the cannabis industry, the genetics, right? But
Yep.
I think what you just described are the phenotypes of plants and how the environment has an impact on, how a plant presents, right? And being able to test that and back that up with data and so on. So for those of you who are, growers and really into the science of the plant and wanting to adjust different factors, the labs come in to help provide you that concrete data to show you what those impacts and those effects are having on the plant and how that's presenting, right? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, that's
yep. And then, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Go ahead, all you.
And you said like obviously a compliant regulatory as far as like medical and adult use markets, but in the CBD or hemp space, if your end product is tested and you can deliver a really potent product in a delicious granola bar or in a really different matrix that isn't on the market, and you can show like, look, it's tested and it's safe. I think that definitely speaks to consumers, potential consumers of your product. Like, look, I'm doing what's right. I'm going through the hoops. I want to make sure that the product you're getting is safe. And that it actually says what the label says that it is or should contain. It's been interesting in the last year and a half seeing hemp products that are kind of getting double checked independently. And, it definitely adds
I
a lot
encourage
of
that with all of my clients.
Yeah.
Because I have clients who come to me and they're white labeling someone else's product, and they of course get the COA from that company. But I always encourage them, hey, listen, you want to, make sure you go out and get your own testing as well. Make sure you have your own, information to back up the what you are presenting to customers, because in the end, the product liability rests, on you, and that is, a responsibility of yours as well. You mentioned something in regards to you have the adult use markets, you have the medical marijuana markets, which still remain illegal at the federal level. But then you have this new, giant of a beast and called hemp that is legal and presents its own set of issues and challenges and so on. So talk about and I can think of one involving labs in particular, helping farmers understand this measurement of uncertainty and how they they've seen people put out plants that are above 0.3 and they can't understand it, and it's like, okay, well, it's not that it's necessarily a point above 0.3, or just helping them to understand that measurement of understanding. So one, if you could speak to maybe that particular piece with the hemp industry and how you guys as a company calculate measurement of understanding and how that may present different ranges, but then also just talk about some of the general challenges and opportunities even that you guys see from a federal regulation standpoint.
Yeah, so the hemp market is definitely wild, especially this year with a lot of farmers transitioning from their local state regulations to the federal regulations, and that's a big change. First, I'll address the measurement of uncertainty. So the measurement of uncertainty is really your potential error. So when you look at a nutrition fact, you automatically assume that it's plus or minus 10%, right? Like that's the standard for nutritional facts. With measurement of uncertainty, that's telling you based on the value that we report, it could be plus or minus that measurement of uncertainty. And I think it's important to realize that labs can determine that measurement of uncertainty in two different ways. One is through calculations, and then one is through really taking the compounded error throughout the process and figuring out how that plays into the final result. Because there are multiple steps in the process, and each one of those steps is associated with its own error. So a really accurate measurement of
absolutely, and I know we have some folks and we're speaking directly to what they love and know. And I know there's a lot of other people who are like, okay, that just went over my head. What is he talking about? But no, I guess another way that I like to explain it to people as well is like, think about when you're watching like a political election and they give you the polls and they say it's like that plus or minus 3, it's telling you, okay, well, we're reporting 46%, but, taking in some, we recognize that we're human and that there's computers and there's inherent flaws in our process. And so we'll say that, it's either, plus or minus on either side of that number we're reporting. So that is a good way of explaining it. So yeah, thank you for that. And then, what about some of the challenges and opportunities you guys see?
Yeah, in terms of the hemp industry, I think a big one is that dreaded total THC level. It's I think a lot of farmers didn't realize the impact of looping in the THCA content into that total THC equation this year. So depending on how you were reporting that, I think it took a lot of people by surprise. Thanks, Jason.
I was like, oh, that's so nice.
Pop that up there for you. It shows you got some fans out there in the building, man. Yeah, thank everybody for tuning in.
That's awesome.
It sounds like Jason's had some great experiences with you guys. I don't know if he's on the hemp side or the cannabis side, but that's good. It's always good to get good customer reviews. There it is, right there.
Thanks,
absolutely. And for those of you in the audience as well, if you guys have any questions for this panel, please go ahead and put them in the post. We'll pop them up here and we'll let you guys talk about it. All right. There's somebody out there that said there aren't that many labs in Florida, if any. Is that correct? There are some labs here in Florida, that are already that have been here for the medical marijuana side of things, and I've spoken to a couple of them, and they're opening up for hemp as well. But we got US Canalytics right now on the line, and they're moving into Florida, and I hear right here in my backyard in Orlando, Florida. So you guys stay tuned and check me out. Follow me on Instagram as well, because I think we're going to do a tour of the lab at some point, right?
Yeah, we'll get you in.
Absolutely. Any other things that you see coming on the federal stage as it pertains to labs? Anything that folks should be looking at. And then I want to shift conversations to talking about how do people get into the lab space in the cannabis industry.
Yeah, I think on the federal level, everyone wants that total THC limit to be more realistic, because if you really want to create a viable industry, you gotta look at that realistically. So I know a lot of people are looking at that. From a lab side, I don't know that I always say that labs are always the forgotten part of the industry.
Completely.
I don't even know that we're on their radar. I mean, from a federal level, it'd be nice to have access to traditional financing and banking, but other than that, I don't really see.
I think even just being invited to the table, as a laboratory working in multiple states, I think we have a lot of feedback that we would be happy to engage with. I think deschedulizing, just in general would make the industry a lot easier, especially for these hemp and CBD guys. Just kind of limiting that additional level of risk that seems unnecessary right now. But I think just coming to the table, and we've approached, a few programs and said, hey, is there any way we can help? Here's kind of what we're thinking. So yeah.
You know what?
To the table would be great. Yeah. Knowledge sharing is something we like to do here at USC.
And I think it's vital. I think it's important. We've had this conversation. Roz and I literally just, it might have been earlier this week or last week. We were on Clubhouse in a room. I think it was this week, as a matter of fact. On Monday, she does her Canna Talk or her Mentoring Mondays, and she now does them on Clubhouse. And we had some folks in there talking about lab. There was a young lady who was actually going through the process of getting her, her certifications and so on. There was others who were looking to get into the industry. And, as an organization, Minorities for Medical Marijuana, we fight to get minorities into the space. And one of the things that we're noticing now, we have members who are looking to get into the lab space. We have folks who have FDA, auditing backgrounds with laboratory science. I've had other laboratory scientists. In fact, about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now, we did a internship program during the summer, and I was able to get a young man who had just graduated college. I think he started out actually in a job, a full-time job at a lab, but entry level, and he was able to work his way up. And it was just amazing, because minorities are definitely looking at ways to get into this industry, and we're always encouraging them to not just look at starting businesses, but look at working for those businesses that are fitting into the different nooks and crannies in this industry. And I think, as you said before, labs usually are the forgotten part of the industry, and people aren't really paying attention to it. So we do want to find ways that we can connect more people to this. And I think we want to have more conversations. I think Roz and I are starting to talk about what we could do from an internal standpoint, to help encourage that, create a sense of community. And so we certainly want to work with you. And there's some other labs out there that I have some relationships with. I think if there isn't, I'm of the mindset, if they don't want to invite you to the table, create your own damn table, and then start having a conversation. So I think we can get some traction on that and get some labs together to start having the conversation, because I think you're right. This could be a good opportunity for a lot of people. So talk about, from the business standpoint of the lab, what is that like? If there's an individual in a state that hasn't come online yet, or maybe it's coming online, like New Jersey, and they have a lab science background and they want to start what is it like to get that started? I don't know if either you were a part of getting this company started, but can you speak to that a little bit?
I think about this a lot, and I feel like I'm Mike Tyson's punching bag sometimes. You just you wake up and you have your day all planned, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna get so much done, and like you walk in and instruments down, the internet's out, someone called out, and now we have this whole COVID issue to deal with. So it's really,
clients are calling. Yeah.
you
everything you thought was going to happen is out the door.
Yeah. You gotta have passion for this industry, because this industry wears you down, and without passion, you're going to get burned out. So you gotta bring the passion. You gotta love, I think, the product. You gotta have some kind of connection with it. And that's really what you got to bring, because it's like any new growth industry. It's never what you expect. It takes twice as long to do everything, and it's always twice as expensive. So
I think what's nice and what I loved about the industry up front is that everyone is so passionate. You know, like Tim said, you have to be all in to like really, you know, do this like medical cannabis lifestyle. You know, I can only speak from the lab side, but you know, I'm sure Tim has worked holidays, you know, texting clients on Christmas, getting emails, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. You know, the industry as a whole doesn't stop. So, you know, as a lab, you know, you have to recognize that your job doesn't stop either. But it's really encouraging knowing that you have clients and you know, programs out there that are really fighting the good fight. And I think if you believe that and you believe that this is work that's going to change kind of like the landscape and the culture for something like this, then it's definitely the industry for you.
Yeah, and you know, what was that transition like for you guys coming from, you know, you guys both come from more traditional lab backgrounds and science backgrounds, and cannabis is everything but traditional. So you know, you know, what was that like coming into the space? And then I think I heard you say one thing in terms of, you know, this industry doesn't really shut down, and so you know, people are always calling you or always reaching out. But can you talk to anything else that was just, you know, interesting or different about the transition?
For me, it was like totally overwhelming. I was working like maybe 7:30 to like 6 on my longest days, and just kind of like checking my email at my leisure when I left at my previous jobs. Um, and now it's kind of like I joke that it's like my child, my spouse. Work every day. You know, my email never shuts off. If I go on vacation, you know, I'm still checking emails. There's no one, you know, Tim was just on vacation for like a week, and, you know, I was getting emails from him early, very, very early and very, very late. So I think just like carrying my laptop everywhere. Like I bought a briefcase. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to like bring it with me everywhere. So now it's like, you know, it's a fun joke in my family that this Christmas I didn't bring my laptop to my parents. And it was like, oh, where's your laptop? Aren't you working today? I was like, oh, maybe from the phone if I have to. But I think that was the biggest transition, was just the totally different culture that this market brought.
Yeah.
You know, I was used to working with physicians and patients, and you know, if you're unavailable, you're unavailable. Someone just leaves you a voicemail, and like I said, it's been awesome because everyone in the industry seems to work at this capacity.
yeah.
Very true.
It's really encouraging because, you know, if I have a client that calls me and I can hear that they're having a rough day, a licensee, and things aren't going right, you know, it's like, okay, you can be that ray of sunshine for them that day. It's like, yeah, we know it's frustrating. Deep breath, you know, back at it.
Yeah. But I think Tim said it right. You gotta love it. You
have to. You have to love
in this
it.
industry, you have to love more than just consuming the plant. Like you, you really gotta love, you know, what you're going to be doing from a business standpoint as well. So, you know, let's transition a little bit and talk about the future of lab testing. And I think, you know, is almost one there. We were already on a pathway towards, you know, legalization and legitimizing this industry, and I think again labs certainly add a lot of that legitimization. But then COVID hit, and medical cannabis became, you know, essential business, and it seems like that path is you know, nearing even closer and closer. So what do you guys see as the future for labs, one, and then also for this industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more accountability. You know, I think you're seeing out west in California, the compliance division out there, the BCC shutting down labs. I think you're going to start seeing that a lot more, and just more auditing, more accountability, higher standards. And we welcome that. We're ready for that. We've been asking for that for a long time, and I think that's only going to help progress the industry overall. And we're excited and ready for that.
Yeah.
But to add on to what Tim's saying, I think part of that comes from the regulators understanding the plant better and understanding kind of shortfalls. So, it's hard to regulate something if you're not aware of all of the steps in the process. So, in some of the organizations that we've operated with, as they understand, that, those margins of errors, they understand potential breakdowns in the state system, they can better anticipate how they need to regulate labs to make sure the industry is working and accountable as a whole.
Yeah, you Carissa, you keep bringing up things that kind of turns on the light bulb to me, and it reminds me of a conversation that I've heard several times in this industry, and I've heard it from different angles. You have, in one case, the operator, and that operator could be a farmer looking to get testing, or a processing, lab who's looking to get their products tested, or even a company who's white labeling or private labeling, looking to get their products testing, and they're doing their own internal quality assurance testing, and that testing being very different than what you are as a lab. You're laughing, so I know that this is
they're your words, not ours.
Right? Say that again. What'd you say?
I said those are your words.
Yeah, and so I'm curious, what do you guys, well, one, before I even ask that, can you explain the difference, some of the differences between what you guys as a lab are required to, provide, some of the standard operating procedures that you guys go through, and how some of those differ than what someone may be doing internally from a quality control and quality assurance standpoint?
You want to take that one, or do you want me to?
Well, I'll start, and then you'll probably finish since you have a little bit more technical. So something right off the bat is, our laboratories are ISO accredited, which means there is a third party that is internationally recognized. You need to follow these things and meet these criteria to show that what you do is consistent across every sample, every drop off, every time you're testing everything. And so that's something that we have at all of our labs. I can't speak for, like you said, a licensee, a farmer. Their equipment may not be calibrated to the same level that our equipment may be because of our ISO things that we follow. Are you doing small things like calibrating scales every day? I think that's kind of where the biggest difference is. And then the quality of the instruments. I've seen little tabletop things where you just like stick the button and close it, and it gives you a potency. We're using, hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment to give you, the best science from the best scientists that we can share. And so I think just understanding the difference in both the attention to detail during the whole process, and then the quality of testing that we can provide based on our level of instrumentation versus what someone like a farmer may or may not have access to.
Yeah. And Tim, you have anything to add to that?
Plug in?
Yeah, I think that, what you brought up, that model works in pharma, right? Because they're a highly regulated industry where the manufacturer can test their product to make sure that it meets, any kind of contamination standard and make sure that it's accurately labeled. But I think with how new this industry is, we're just not at that level. And that's why, at a bare minimum, labs should have an ISO accreditation, and that outlines the policies that they have and that they're following those policies. And with that, like Carissa says, comes traceability, So how do you calibrate your balances? Well, we calibrate them with weights. Where did you get those weights? Who did you get them from? What are their credentials? So everything is traceable back to a known standard, and that's really I think what differentiates us from someone that has maybe in-house analytics. We've seen some good in-house analytics though, and we do what we can to work with them to share ideas with extraction or troubleshooting, and we want everyone to be good, so we want to elevate people as much as possible.
Yeah, you kind of answered what my next question, my follow-up to that was going to be, in terms of how do we close this disconnect? Because again, I've heard it on both sides. Like
I think just ask the questions. Like, we say to our clients all the time, like, we are here to be your partner. Like, we're here to help you provide the best, safest, medicine to the market. If you're having a problem in your internal lab, just ask us. If we have a scientist on site and they can kind of like troubleshoot your instrument and it's working, or they notice, hey, something's expired. Hey, I think just that collaboration is huge. And we never want to seem like we're not willing to collaborate.
Yeah.
Something to help, we're all hands on.
And I'm wondering, are you guys looking at potentially offering training or educational materials to the other side of the equation to help them better understand what you do, help them to better understand how they can improve their internal processes and so on?
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome, man.
Up to us, we ask, ask and it's provided. So if there's something specific your audience is looking for, we'll do our best to share what we can.
Yeah, well, in that regard, I want to bring back up this comment in regards to the future of testing additional and deeper levels of terpenes. Jason is wondering, where do you guys, can you touch on that, and where do you see that in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we would love to. I think as more compounds become discovered and the importance of those compounds are conveyed, those will become more important, especially, with not only terpenes, but flavonoids and other compounds present in the cannabis plant. I mean, that's what's so exciting, I think, about this industry, is that there's still so much to be known and so much to be discovered. It's not just about, the THC level, it should be about the terpene profiles and how really, what you were saying earlier, I think the most exciting part about this industry is that it's I think empowering people about their health and how their medicine affects them, because it's going to affect everyone differently, right? And what may work for you may not work for me. And I think it's an awesome journey to be able to figure out what works for you,
Yeah, absolutely. And, going back a little bit to, the business side of things, right? You guys are getting ready to build out a lab here in Florida. You're going to have to staff that lab. You talked about some of the challenges, I think, with, employees and, just having to, people are taking vacations, or, there may be turnover like any other industry and so on. How are you guys, looking to staff up this office here in Florida? How can someone reach out? Because again, we definitely support and try to promote folks to get connected. And we have individuals who are minorities who want to be on the lab side and the tech side. So, talk about some of your efforts, or where people can find out about the opportunities that you guys have.
Yeah, so we on our website, there is the ability to send us a message, and we get these pretty frequently. Say, hey, I'm interested in any open positions, and we're always looking for good people. We would be in 10 states right now if we could, if we had the personnel to do it. And that's ultimately the rate limiting step is finding the right people to, carry on your brand and the quality that you have built with current customers. So they can shoot us a message at uscanalytics.com. We actually have a posting up for New Jersey, for the lab director in New Jersey, and once that lab gets up and running, we'll be filling in positions there. I know that as Florida gets up and running as well, we'll be filling in positions there. We're always looking for good people.
Okay. And do you guys train, or are you looking for certain backgrounds? Are you looking for certain experiences? Do they have to have previous cannabis, lab testing experience, or what would you say in that regard?
That's a really good question. And, I would say it varies on a case by case basis. We've had some people where, they've come from a cannabis lab and you think that's great, but then they're really just stuck in their ways and it's hard for them to see any other process than what they know. So I think we've had the best luck actually of hiring people with
Young
a
scientists.
background with that.
I said young scientists.
Yeah.
They're
Young
hungry.
that are hungry, and you can train them in your system, and as long as they have an open mind and the desire to be a part of this industry, it usually works out the best for us, I think.
I know something that I feel like I've learned through this journey is making sure that the potential hire understands up front kind of what's expected to like hang in the industry. So, something I always say is like, do you like to learn? Do you like to work independently and troubleshoot? I feel like a lot of potential candidates are maybe not necessarily thinking about how vast the unknown is in this industry between like products and all the different matrices and state regs can change at any time. And, we may be expected to test this thing this way today and tomorrow totally different. And we've had to do it. So that's definitely something I would advise anyone who's
Are
in
you okay
industry.
with change?
Do you like to problem solve? Do you like to learn? And do not expect to come in and do the same thing every day. Like I know scientists that work in pharma and they go in and do the same thing every single day. They test the same drug the same way on the same instrument. And if that's what you're looking for, this may not be the space for you. And that's fine. Young, hungry, wanting to learn, passionate about the industry. I think those things will definitely get you far.
Yeah. How important is having some type of science or laboratory background at all, even if it's, from a schooling or so on? Or can they be, is it okay if they say, come from another profession that, obviously it has a high level of attention to detail, problem solving, those type of things? Or is someone, I guess my true question is how trainable is this job? You know what I mean? Like, or do you kind of need to have some, good, the periodic table, you need to understand what you're working, talk about that.
Yeah, I think you have to have, and traditionally we do look for people with a science background, but this job is very trainable because we have established standard operating procedures. It's pretty easy to follow and get trained on whatever task you're going to be responsible for. But yeah, as long as we like to hire smart people. So as long as you are okay with math and okay using Excel and technology and be responsive to emails, it's a very trainable job.
Yeah, that's awesome. What would
and
you
just
say?
recognizing that there are different sides to the testing business, as they are. I'm not a scientist. I don't come from a scientific background, and so there are opportunities for things like just regulatory and compliance, even in an HR perspective, things like sales, talking about just like laboratory testing as a whole. So there are, and I hope that, people understand that as lab testing gets bigger, those opportunities increase also. And so you don't have to be a scientist or, think you have to go and prep samples every day. If you are someone that works in regulatory or compliance, someone that works in bookkeeping or finance,
marketing,
yeah, those opportunities are there, and they're there now, and they'll just continue to get bigger.
Yeah, I think you underscore a point that we say all the time. Like, this is a real industry, so everything that any other industry would need, this industry needs it. And I do try to underscore that point to folks and help them understand that you don't have to come in and necessarily learn a new skill, but if you want to, there are those opportunities. But many times there's opportunities for you to apply what you already know and add value to companies in that regard. Let me also ask you to that point. Like I've had a recent conversation with someone who's on the tech side, and they're asking me for different opportunities in the space, and there's a lot of different tech applications that are being brought to bear in various points of the industry. And what I did mention to them, again, I don't know, partly because I have a client who has an FDA lab background. We talk about labs a lot. So I recognize when you say that you guys are the forgotten part of the industry. And what I mentioned to them was like, listen, what if you connected with labs and understood what some of the pain points you guys have that could be potentially solved with technology? So could you speak to that, from a laboratory standpoint? Where do you see are some potential tech applications that someone who comes from a tech background could begin working on solutions for you guys?
Yeah, the big thing that sticks out is our it's a LIMS system, so it's Laboratory Information Management System, and it's how we take all of the information from the different instruments and get it onto a C of A, and that process can be very tedious, and that disrupts workflow. So to date, there really is no good golden standard LIMS system. I think a lot of people.
I just made somebody $1 million in the crowd.
I was going to say, no, I have sat down. I've spent probably more than 20 hours with multiple developers that are like, oh, we're going to build you your system the way you want it done. I'm like, great, let's go. And then they're like, actually, this is a big task. And so I think, if there's anyone out there that, like you said, your friend that's into, can build a web-based system, but it's got to be robust. Like Tim said, you are accounting for every single sample that comes into the lab, all of the variables that it goes through during testing, retesting. Potentially it could watch inventory for supplies and like track which, scale you're using, which pipette you're using, and be like really comprehensive.
I think the platform that I hear is something related to blockchain. I think there's some sort of blockchain information
probably where it's
sharing and gathering a mechanism there. So I am going to put that out there. I would love to be able to, connect you with some of the tech folks I know just to talk through, what that might, potentially look like, because I agree. That does sound extremely, there's a lot of different moving parts to it. But,
right. And like Tim said, there are products on the market now. It's just they're all missing like what feels like a really big piece. Some do inventory and some will capture the data. For a while we were using, like a traditional like doctor's office type of information system. And it just felt like we were hitting so many walls because the developers didn't understand the product or like the process that we were going through, because it was so different than, traditional toxicology testing. And so I think building one would probably be the best option.
I think the solution.
So many revisions or so many updates to make it.
Yeah.
And then I want it.
Yeah, and I think there's also a further implication as well, the small business standpoint, or when you get down to the actual company standpoint. So again, I think of that company that's white labeling, right? They when they request their COA from their supplier, they get a PDF sent to them that they then have to go and put up on their website and create a QR code to put on their product. Like that, or if they create that end-to-end solution, they might really be on to something that is nice. So yeah, I would love to be able to pick your brain some more about that. I told you guys I had a little bit of nerd in me. So to me, I'm getting a little circle of death there. I'm not sure if I'm still there.
It's getting better.
I was gonna say I can hear you.
Okay.
Now you're back.
Good. I don't know why, man. I sit in the same place at the same time the camera has to move, and then
Spectrum is the worst.
Signal drops. But, yeah.
Technology. There's technology again.
Once again, technology, right? You guys have been absolutely amazing. Talk about, as we begin to wrap up, what are some of the, I know you guys already mentioned you're moving into Florida, you're moving into New Jersey and so on. But what are some of the what else can we expect from you guys in 2021? Maybe in your current labs, new capabilities that you're bringing on, or any other new markets that you might be moving into.
Yeah, so I think the big the big picture, we'd like to be in more states, and then as we get comfortable in the states that we're in, is to continue to be innovative. So things like you said, where we can take a customer feedback like that and integrate that into our system. Where okay, we want QR codes, we want this QR code to go on our labels, so when a patient buys our product, they can scan the QR code and have access to the entire C of A. That's what I see the future really being, is making the data that we produce in the lab more accessible.
Yeah.
Because right now, we do all this work, we look at almost 100 different analytes, and what's on the label are a couple of cannabinoids and terpenes. You really want to be able to allow the patient to access that information. And it's difficult with the way that states are set up now, but I think in the future, there's going to be a real demand and need for that.
That's
hey,
awesome. Yeah, you got all kind of fans out there.
Tim has all fans.
We brought on a real rock star today, didn't we?
Well, no, it's been, we were talking the other day. I've been working in the industry for 3 years, and it doesn't seem long, but 3 years in the cannabis industry,
huge, yeah,
forever.
It is light years. I same thing. I got started in 2015, and I agree. It has just been, like that. Those 5 years have just been, completely amazing. So listen to this. Jay says, "Give it to my physician, please. Give the database of test results to the canna doctors and nurses." See, again, this is why we have to make sure that we begin to highlight labs more, and we have more conversation. I would certainly love to talk with you guys offline about how Minorities for Medical Marijuana can also, help facilitate more conversation. Because I think we raised just on this chat a few things that the lab side of the industry could really use, and some solutions that can be brought to bear. And I think it all stems from, more education, more conversation.
Yep.
And I think this has been a really, really good one here today. Jay, we agree with you. We're going to work on that for you, because we're here to help make this industry grow and be better. And so we thank you for that feedback, and thank you for tuning in. Any last words as we wrap up? We're coming up on the last, final minutes. Any last words? Again, we're going to put the website so that, folks know where they can find you. If you're looking for jobs or anything like that, reach out. Yep. Even if they, if they don't have a current posting, I would say even reach out, shoot them your resume, because you never know what opportunities may become available. So absolutely. Any last words, guys?
We're always hiring. Like, it just feels like the industry just keeps getting bigger, and we just have to, continue to grow to meet turnaround times and, goals that our clients and that our state programs are setting for us. So
absolutely,
our way.
Yeah, no, last words is just, it's awesome to be here every day. I'm grateful to be in this industry and hopefully to be making a positive impact. And it's awesome. A lot of love and appreciation to our team. When I came on board, I think we had 2 or 3 employees, and we're close to 30. Yep. We're close to 30 now, and that's been a year, a little over a year and a half. So we've grown tremendously, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without an awesome, passionate, committed team in Maryland, Pennsylvania, and in Florida now. So,
well, I got one I'm going to be sending your way as well. She actually has experience working for Cannabis Labs.
Awesome.
And, she lives here in Florida. So we will talk. I'll definitely make sure I get you guys her information, and hopefully, if there's some opportunity there.
100%. Please do.
All right. And feel free to ask questions, guys. I think that's kind of like my closing words are ask questions. Ask, is your hemp or CBD product tested? Ask what your state's requiring of your, medical or adult use stuff to be tested for. Don't be afraid to kind of shake the boat and demand quality testing programs. That's something that we're working on now. I think with more regulation comes more education, and I'm really grateful and thankful that, we as an organization have been able to provide really high quality testing for patients. And hopefully for adult use at some point.
Absolutely. Real quick, can you list some of the products that you guys currently have capacity to test? Because I think that's also important as well. Folks are, again, purchasing products wholesale, white labeling. And I know for me, I'm working with like Hemp Hearts, and it's been a struggle to find someone that could give us a nutritional panel that we need. Can you speak to some of the products?
Yeah. So we can do, traditional flour, oil, but we also work with a lot of hemp companies that do dog treats. We do gel caps, gummies. We do chewing gum, mints. So pretty much
drinks. Yeah.
Yeah, coffee. We're working with a company developing a K cup right now. So we can work with anything really, and
and we can test your input material. So we do some soil testing, nutrient testing for water quality.
Soil testing. Oh, we have to talk. I have worked with a number of farmers. Absolutely. Okay, that's also good to know because folks are looking for, I always recommend before you put anything in the ground, make sure you know what you're planting.
Your end product is only as safe as all your ingredients,
And in particular with hemp and cannabis, it loves that stuff. It'll soak it all up, and your your plant will be full of everything. And so, you definitely want to know what's in the ground first. So that is awesome. Well, thank you guys again. You guys won't be strangers to Canna Talk. You also won't be strangers to the Infra MM crowd as well. So I just want to say thank you to you guys for being here and sharing so much good information and so on. We're wrapping up to everybody who's paying attention, who's watching us. Thank you. Happy New Year. Glad to be back. Roz is, juggling a couple of different things today, but we're going to be back. We got some, awesome guests lined up for you guys throughout the year. Some awesome conversations. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button and share it. And, this video will be on Facebook and YouTube for you guys. So feel free to continue sharing that out to everybody else as well. But as always, go home this weekend, love on yourself, love on your family, get some rest. And we got plenty of work to do next week. Thank you all for joining. We'll see you next week for another episode with Canna Talk with Roz.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Have a good weekend.
Right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.